Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where we talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Treadstone. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. But first, let's start off with everything related to Doug. It's interesting because it seems like this whole team that he's a part of, obviously they're not in the know about what he's really up to, but I guess that's kind of the point because it's like, less people who know, the less cleanup you have to do, so you keep them in the dark. They're thinking they're there just to kind of rob this place of the pills. The head honcho at the place, the person that Doug's actually after, they're not there to kill her. It's like, we're here to just get the pills. She's got security, so for God's sake, let's just avoid her. But, obviously, Doug sitting there kind of thinking about things, it shifts him into basically assassin mode, and he kind of takes the charge. And what I think is kind of really interesting, because obviously, like, when that shift is happening, when you basically become, a weapon version of yourself, that everything else kind of falls to the wayside. So like he wasn't concerned about whether he was putting their lives in danger. All he cared about was his mission. His mission was to take her down. Nothing else mattered. So he put them in a position where he powered up the light and then shot some fires basically to use them as a distraction. So it's like, we're a team, we're in this together. It's like, no, I have my mission. You guys aren't part of that mission. You were meant to be cover for that mission to basically give me backup if needed. But regardless, he does take some people out along the way, but I think that's more so to get them out of his way. But I guess it's like, well, if I take these guys out and my dudes stay alive, then I guess in a sense, it's hard to say whether it was just pure self-preservation. How much was Doug kicking in to be like, maybe I should help out these guys, or how much was I'm keeping these guys alive because they're going to basically help keep me alive, keep these other people off my back, or is it just, hey, you're in my way, so I'm taking you down anyway? Makes you wonder about that. What was kind of a surprise that he ended up running into his friend Michael. It's like, okay, because his friend had talked about, earlier in the season about finding some work, which Doug wasn't too keen on because he knew it was going to be something super shady. But now we see it was him part of this pill factory situation, which Doug kills one of the guys that's on his team to keep him from killing Michael. And it's like, you didn't see me here, you didn't see any of this, go. And so when the time comes, he does end up killing a lady. But she says something really interesting. It's like, why does the CIA want you dead? She's like, the CIA doesn't even know I exist. Which also further proves that, because obviously this whole Treadstone thing, which we now know is the CIA has nothing to do with that. I mean, granted, it might be like a dark sector of the CIA. Maybe someone connected to the CIA is actually, because home dude that's talking to Ellen, that dude, played by Michael Gaston, he might be trying to play dumb, but he might be neck deep in all of this. Because obviously, Ellen's current theory, it's obviously this is all connected to what's the dude? He's named Ray. He's a senator. She thinks it all kind of connects to him. So obviously there's a lot of people involved. And once again, this is an international level thing. So the full scope of it still hasn't really been discovered. But we are slowly but surely kind of uncovering the players. Here in the States, though, it's still unclear. Other than Ray, we don't know how else that trickles down, the totem pole. So... But I think that was a very important line to show the CIA has nothing to do with this. I think even Sam is still under the impression these are people the CIA wants you to kill. It's like, no, the CIA, because I'm sure she's probably hasn't really been in contact with the whole program since once again, the events of the Jason Bourne movies. So it might be a thing of her being unaware that not everyone in the CIA is, because even in those movies, not everyone was aware of what was really going on in the CIA. They were just like, oh, here's some bad guy. Oh, maybe they think he's some rogue agent, and not realizing that he's basically someone else's gun that they're pointing in a certain direction, So I don't think Doug might have taken too much note of that, but I think that is, I think that might be kind of where their story ends up falling, going down that route of finding out hey, we don't really know who's truly pulling the strings in all of this. And obviously it goes into that thing, because obviously, for Doug, it's a thing of I killed him. He's like, it's like I let something else take over. I was someone else. It's that, I think it's that weird line, because the takeover isn't full, that he is aware. Because I feel like even when you are under, you still are, your skills and stuff like that, your assassin mind kicks in, but they are still cognizant enough. They're not, whereas I don't know. with Steven's situation, it seemed a little different because like it almost seemed like he was a mindless killing machine that just happened to remember afterwards. Whereas like with Soo-yeon and Doug, it does seem like their consciousness is still intact. Like they're still cognitively aware while they're doing it. It seems a little different, but I guess it's kind of the same. But regardless, it's a whole thing of like, once again, it's like his life basically imploded last episode, and it continues to implode because it's like, I thought you were just some city girl from up north. You're not even from Boston, are you? And she's like, no. So it's like, not only is everything that you know about yourself a lie, and this whole relationship is based off a lie, like nothing you know about her is real. And it begs the question, makes you go, is Sam even your real name? I mean, it probably is, but like everything else you've come to know about her in your time together has been a lie. But she goes, but you're from Boston. So it's just kind of like, once again, probably just another, like, arrow to the heart, because it's just like, okay, so even more stuff I don't even know about myself. I'm not even from where I thought I was from, Now he also has to deal with the Michael situation of like, he saw my face, I know he was involved there, but maybe someone else was involved as well, which also begs the question, like, because that lady was manufacturing pills and stuff like that, so if someone trying to take over her operation or something like that, try to get access, it makes you wonder, because obviously, because there's also has to deal with like a pharmacy because there was like that dude who died last episode, he was like, He was the heir to a pharmacy company. He ended up getting killed. The lady, the assassin in India, ended up killing him. So I'm sure that's all connected because that's pills and that's a pharmacy thing. So it all ties together, I think. We'll see what that ultimately ends up being, but that's definitely going to be, I'd assume that has to be tied, but maybe not. Maybe it's some other connection in that regard, but regardless, that's Doug's side of things. Then we get Tara's side of things, which is really interesting. She meets up with a fellow reporter friend named Megan, and I think this was really this episode was a nice insight into understanding who Tara is, because for her, it's like, when she chases a story, because even Megan was like, I wanted to chase a story, but you always needed to chase a story. And it's all ties into a dude named Sebastian, which it seems like Tara and him have a past, to the point like he wanted Tara to stay, and he promised he was going to leave the criminal world behind, but obviously he's in jail right now for, smuggling rifles or something like that. So, which they, Megan was able to set the whole thing up for them to meet in prison and everything. And obviously Sebastian is still holding, there's still a candle he has lit for Tara, because it's like, he's even carrying the bullet. He's like, yeah, this moved over a couple more centimeters, we'd both be dead right now. It's like, we were both lucky. And for him, he's like, I know I'm not enough to make you quit your need to kind of, go for the stories. But the fact of the matter is, maybe a family could, but she's like, I'm not here for that. This is about Stiletto 6, which for him, it's like, okay, so you didn't visit me. You visited me because you need something from me. And he actually said something that's kind of a little harsh, where he was basically like, Tara, you don't have any friends. You just have a network of people that you basically use, who are just a means to an end to you, basically accomplishing whatever goal you need. So I'm not someone that you really care about, And even she kind of admits, like, the fact of the matter is, she's had a crazy past couple of days, and now on top of all of that, too, for her, it's like she pushes people away. She keeps herself a little isolated, because I think for her, it's her way of protecting people. It's like, because obviously her line of work, diving into some deep, dark stories, especially something like this Stiletto 6 thing, especially considering we ourselves as the audience are seeing the massive conspiracy that this is. Whereas Tara's seeing one side of things, she still hasn't fully seen the scope of everything. She's still kind of in the dark about things, but obviously she's slowly but surely figuring things out. So while that's, happening, she wants to keep people, safe, especially because she does care about him, which is ironic to say, considering the fact that she set it up so he got stabbed or whatever. Which he didn't appreciate, which is a little dark when you think about it, and quite dark when you think about it. Like, obviously it was to get him out of prison and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's like, well, it's more so because he wouldn't help you, so this is like, hey, I got you out, so now you kind of have to help me, but at the same time, it is like, kind of shows you how far Tara's willing to go for a story, but it's like, there's give and take, because even when it's all said and done, they're kind of laughing about it later on, so it's like, I guess you don't take it as to heart as you think you should, but At the same time, I think it just shows you, I mean, but at the same time, it also shows like how important the story is, because she's trying to get the funds. She's trying to buy Stiletto 6 so North Korea doesn't get their hands on it. So there's that whole situation. And what's interesting is, like, you know, it's a whole statement of like, oh, Tara has no friends, but now she's not in this alone. Megan's coming along for the story, and obviously Sebastian, which maybe this could be the beginning of rekindling said, you know, flame. I said candle before. I meant to use kind of flame as the metaphor, but I completely butchered it. I knew it sounded wrong the moment I said it, but regardless. So that's interesting to see kind of that side of things. Other side of things we see is Budapest in 73, where we have John returning. You know, it's like he's trying to figure out like what was him and Petra up to, like what happened to all those agents that went missing, which we know where some of them went, because John killed them basically at the beginning of the series. When, you know, he was flashing back to what he believed was obviously him being in his memories of Vietnam, but it was actually him killing fellow agents. So there's some group that him and Petra ended up pissing off, and because the group believes he's part of the KGB, which even he's like, I'm not part of the KGB, but it's like, I mean, you were here with Petra for months operating, and we kind of learned later on that like basically some like tough nuts to crack, like some very like gangster level people. So it seems like they're probably part of a gang or something, like kind of like a mob type of thing in Budapest, maybe. Because that's some of the people they were kidnapping, but they weren't the only ones. One of the sad people they had there that in that particular was a hotel or whatever that he was torturing was one of his own friends. It's like, because even the dude he was beating up on Matheson was like, dude, we were friends. Like, what did they do to you? It's like pumping him for information. And then he sees that he's up there kissing Petra, and it just like, you know, probably makes him piss him off even more, makes him sick. To the fact of the matter is, she literally in a twisted way had you under a love spell and everything. And it's like, which in the long run, we know he never gets revenge against Petra because she's super alive and well present day. So it's kind of like, which once again I brought it up last episode, that watch of Petra's that he got, she has it present day. So at some point in time they cross paths, she must end up killing John and getting her watch back. So I think, I don't know, we might find out there might be more to John's story, but it might be because like I brought up before, John is like the precursor to Treadstone in these states, like, because that's why his boss sent him there. It's like, oh yeah, find out, you know, the new war on the mind starts there. It's like they want Petra for that reason. Not unless we find out the twist is that John brings her in, they pump her for information about Treadstone, and then they let her go because they didn't think she was as important. They thought maybe she was a low-ranking person. I mean, maybe that's why she got the position of looking after Stiletto 6. Maybe that was supposed to be the downgrade. You know, maybe it was part of some big plan they had back then, but then they were just like, oh, that was the old, you know, that was the old way, you know, order. So it's like, you know, she kind of was, she's a relic of the past. So it's like, oh, she was just left there. Keep looking after Stiletto 6. We don't care. But I mean, it kind of matters in a sense. I guess the whole point was to kill Petra eventually anyway, because she had, you know, but it's like she just made contact first. They were probably going to come and hit her at the her home so they can steal Stiletto 6 in the first, you know, because they're, you know, Yuri plans on selling it anyway. So, but we'll get to that, you know, soon enough, I'm sure. But it's an interesting circumstance. But circling back to it, John also has to deal with the fact is that the guy who runs the hotel or whatever, he was paid off by the KGB, and he's like, the fact of the matter is, while you were here, we kind of got to talking, and you basically told me how much you enjoyed this because you felt like truly like yourself for the first time. And because there was even a room with a wall where he kept writing his name, because I think there was some part of him still trying to hold on to his identity buried beneath this whole cicada program. He was trying to remember, so I think he was right, because at one point you see like it seemed like he was writing his name over and over again because he was trying to hold on to his identity. At one point, it's the question becomes like, was it him trying to remember his name? Because at one point he says his name, his first name John, his middle initial, and then his last name. But then there's another one that's got his full name. The question is, did he start with like his full name and then slowly but surely trying to remember, what was my name again? What was my name again? Or was it the other way around of like starting off, what was my name again? Wait, I'm remembering. Because which way it goes does matter, because I think that speaks volumes about his mental condition and whether or not how deep and how powerful the Cicada program has him under wraps. So we even see at one point he does try to call, I believe, his mom, but his mom thinks he's dead. So rather than kind of, because I'm sure for him, he doesn't know if he's going to make it out of all of this. Plus, after everything that he's done, I don't think he wants his mom wrapped up in that. So it's like, I'd rather her think I'm dead, being the good man that she believes that I was, the good son that I was. So it's like, forget that. So he meets a woman named Katya who is helping him because she's like, oh, I see that you have trauma. The fact of the matter is you kind of have to let it go. But he's like, I can't let it go, because it seems like she's going to be taking him on what is essentially what is it? I guess almost like a spirit quest, in a sense of like him trying to find himself. It's like, if you want to like figure yourself out, you kind of have to accept the part of what you become, which is like, what if I don't want to accept that? Because that means accepting all the terrible stuff that he's done, what he's become, the monster that they've made him into. So, which includes dropping acid, because I guess it's like, well, which is so interesting. I wasn't expecting to kind of like, I guess this is like the 70s, so it's kind of got that like, which I always feel weird saying hippie, because I feel like that's a little like, I don't know, fucked up in a sense, but kind of the hippie vibe. I wasn't expecting that, but like I said, it is the 70s, so I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. But I'm interested to see, because I'm kind of worried. I'm like, oh, the fact of the matter is, you start untapping so much stuff in his mind, especially the way his mind is right now, with struggling between his identities of being under the Cicada program and being himself. I just get the feeling like that could get ugly pretty quickly, but we'll see. I just think it's kind of interesting too. You meet some random lady and you're just willing to like, oh, drop acid with her. That's interesting. To be fair, once again, hey, it's the 70s. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, the last lady in your life wasn't that great, that being Petra. So it's like, part of me just feels like, I don't know, man, it seems a little shady, but hey, maybe this could be the steps to making him feel whole again, kind of. Maybe, like I said, go on some spiritual journey. We'll ultimately have to wait and see where things kind of take us on his side of things going forward. And then on the other side of things, we have So-Yun's story, where it's the whole situation of her going to China. And so the fact of the matter is, she's being, smuggled. And it was interesting because she was like, oh, so we are coming back, right? And the dude's like, I got paid one way. I was like, okay, so either they don't believe you're coming back, or they're kind of like, if you're able to come back, you better do it on your own. So, but I should have figured as much, because I should have known something was a little off, because they're sending another operative was being sent to China as well. So I was like, and then we find out, oh, because her target is So-Yun. I guess it's because, well, she's a loose end. It's just, I guess, because she's kind of created enough problems for them back in Korea, so they're like, take care of it if need be. Not unless it's a thing of like, there's a little discrepancy where it's like, the lady from India works for someone else who's trying to screw up this whole deal, maybe? No, because she was, because So-Yun was sent there specifically to drop off that package. So that's why I'm like, it has to be connected. They're probably like, yeah, she's too much trouble. We don't want to have any more ties connected to us. She killed Quan for us, so it's like, deal with any loose ends, which you kind of feel like that could always circle back around and include her family too, but maybe not. Maybe because her family's in the dark, they won't do anything. She better, all she can do is hope. But nevertheless, sadly, the guy who was, supposed to be driving the boat ends up getting killed by a guard, and obviously she ends up killing the military dude as well, to make sure, because can't have any ties to what she was up to. Sadly, it involved, she had threw her bag at one point and ended up dropping her son's toy that he had given her in, but she wanted to go back for it because it was like the only thing to hold on to remind her of her son, but she was on a time crunch and she couldn't take a chance she might get caught out on the water. So she finds her way to China and ends up getting transported along the way, and obviously she sees these other people who are, kind of being smuggled as well, and it's like seeing a woman there with her child, and well, not just her, but other people with their families, just reminds her of the family. She ended up leaving. The lady's like, oh, do you have a family? She's like, I have a son. It's like, oh, is he waiting for me? She's like, he's still at home. And it's just like, the guilt of just like, my son might not never know what happened to me. Like, I left him alone. There's a part of her hoping to get back, but there is a part of her that probably, because of the whole one-way ticket thing of like, I'm not coming back to him. It's not like I even have this one thing to hold on to him anymore. Which even I'm kind of like, I don't know, maybe someone's going to find that stuffed toy, and I'm like, that might turn into something. Maybe not. Maybe it's just kind of like, it's just meant to just simply represent the fact that she's gonna be heartbroken because she lost that. Or it could circle back into becoming a plot thing of like someone finds that it all gets trailed back to her, in particular her family. We'll see. But what she was dropping off, interestingly enough, is stuff related to Stiletto 6. In particular, like some of the blueprints that she sees that she's handing over. It's like, wait a minute, that's for my husband. So it's like, wait, what's going on here? So it might be a thing of a frame job of they're going to make it look like her husband's involved in this international thing. So if it ever circles back to North Korea, he'll be the fall guy. That's what I'm thinking that's supposed to mean, which that leads to a fight between the two. I actually kind of wasn't surprised. I was actually surprised things ended the way they did with Soo-yeon being the one that got shot. I was thinking like, oh, it's going to be I thought they were going to cut the black the moment, like, you know, your typical thing of putting a camera in the air, and then it's like, oh, who got shot? It's like, obviously Soo-yeon didn't get shot. The other lady got shot. But it's like, no, Soo-yeon's the one that got shot. I wasn't expecting that. I was like, oh. I thought we were just going to make it the clear thing of like, oh, obviously, like, you know, she's got, you know, plot armor. She's main protagonist. She's got plot armor. But it's like, no, she got shot. I mean, granted, she's not dead, but the lady just left her dead to be like, oh, she'll bleed out. It's like, that's definitely going to be interesting to see what ends up happening. Like I said, I'd like to get all these stories are so disconnected, but they're all connected, yet like none of the other stories are aware of the others. It's kind of interesting. Like they're so heavily tied, yet these other stories are not aware of each other. Because, you know, I keep bringing it up and changing it up every time, but it's like technically we have like 5 different stories technically happening all at once. We have John's story, we have Doug's story, we have Soo-yeon's story, we have Tara's story, and technically I say we have Matt's story because he represents the CIA. Well, him and Ellen kind of represent that, so depending on how you want to look at that, him being on the agent side of things, because obviously his story is connected to Steven, so it's like, okay, so technically Ellen's story might be a different story, but I think that kind of all gets roped together in one story. So technically 5 different storylines kind of going all in once, all 5 storylines heading to one collision point, which is also interesting considering the fact is one of those said storylines take place in the past. It's quite fascinating, you know, when you kind of think about it all like that in the grand scale of things. But I am very fascinated to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.